Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. So other than today being Veterans Day, today is 11/11/11. And okay, I feel a little bad. I didn't do my homework. I know there has to be like some really cool significance to 11/11/11. I mean, considering that 11s are magical numbers, and now we have 3 11s in a row. Pretty interesting stuff. But to share today with us, we're going to be speaking to Klaus Dona about unsolved mysteries of the ancient kind. And you guys, this show, you got to listen to the whole thing. I'm going to introduce you, but one of the things I want to let you know is we're going to be talking about a number of pieces that he has come into contact with, and there are actually images of the pieces on the Just Energy Radio website. So if you go to the archive and click on Klaus Dona, you will see actually the images we're going to be speaking about on that webpage. So let me tell you a little bit about Klaus. Klaus Dona comes from the world of art. As Art Exhibition Curator for the Habsburg Haus of Austria, Klaus has organized exhibitions worldwide. With this background, his approach to archeology is unconventional. He has traveled the world in search of unique and unexplained findings. Intrepid and unrelenting, he is on a mission to bring to the eye of the public such finds as giant bones, carvings, and sculptures in forms that do not fit into the contemporary view of our timeline. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio from KlausDonaChronicles.com, Klaus Dona. Hey, Klaus, how are you?
Thank you very much. Hello, Dr. Rita. Thank you very much for inviting me to your interview today on this special day, 11/11/11.
Klaus, I have to tell you, it's like the stuff we're going to be talking about. When I saw some of these images online, I was like, get out of town. They were just so spectacular. You know, not that they're classical high Greek sculpture or Renaissance art, which is fantastic in and of itself, but it's in the content that these pieces have and the potential meaning for ourselves and our past and our history that I have never seen in an art book or on TV at all.
It was not easy to find those things, but in one way, it was always a kind of coincidence through friends, through introductions, through researching in several countries. I found pieces where even I was at the first moment when I saw them more than impressed and somehow also shocked about so many things. We don't know who did make those pieces, when did they make it. For example, there are many pieces we had very serious scientific checks on them, and finally the answer was it's impossible to say how old they are, when they were made, who did make those pieces, but the only thing which scientists could say, we are not able to do the same pieces today with our high tech. And that impressed me more than anything.
Klaus, what got you interested in looking for these kinds of artifacts and finds in the first place?
I read many books in the past, already when I was young, and I was interested in many stories about the Egyptian pyramids and so many explanations also about some incredible artifacts. And I have to say I was a very big skeptic. I didn't believe that all these things are reality. So one day I decided, or I had the funny idea, why not trying to bring many of those pieces in an exhibition to Vienna, and which happened then in 2001. And through research on some pieces, through the help of some scientists in Austria, I was more and more impressed, and finally I turned completely around from a big skeptic, not to a complete believer. Still, I'm very skeptical when I see new artifacts. I want to see them always by myself, and then I make my decision to study them further on and ask some friends to give me some advices or some help.
I just think it's amazing that you have found what you found, or people have shared with you some of these pieces, because they're mind-blowing. I mean, I don't even want to say they're amazing. They're mind-blowing. You know, not, again, necessarily about the artwork per se, although some of them, it is about the artwork, but it's about the potential implications of the pieces in the first place.
I think many of the pieces, we could learn something out of them, but sometimes it's very difficult because, for example, we found stones with unknown writings, with the same writings from Ecuador through Colombia, in United States, in France, in Italy, in Malta, even in Turkmenistan and in Australia. So that means I was very much surprised, because I thought there must have lived a global civilization in the past, or at least a civilization must have been that knowledge and know-how to travel all around the world. But still those writings are not accepted officially. Even two men were able to translate it. One was a German president of the German Linguistic Society, Professor Schildmann, and another one, he passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. And another one still living is an Italian professor, and they could translate those writings. But why the official science is not accepting those writings or translations? Because they say these writings are a mixture of different writings, like Sumerian writing, or the Nordic, the runes, or even connecting to the Indus Valley. And this is what Professor Schildmann said, that this writing has a connection to the Indus Valley writing, Mohenjo-Daro, for example, now Pakistan, and also the Easter Island writing. So I think, couldn't it be that out of the first writing, some civilizations took these parts and another one took another part? That could be a possibility.
That is a possibility. And for the people that are listening, there are a couple of pictures of these inscribed stones on the webpage, justenergyradio.com. Click on the Klaus Dona link, and you'll see them under the Ecuador section. When I look at them, the first thing that comes to my mind are runes. I mean, there's a definite similarity to runes, much more than Sumerian, you know, because it doesn't look particularly cuneiform to me. Question. I'm just going to play a little devil's advocate here with you.
Sure.
But I thought that the Sumerians had the first system of writing. Do they have any idea, like, the ones that I posted on the webpage or some of the other inscribed stones, how old they are? How far back in the strata did they find them?
No, the big problem is that all those pieces which I got in contact with were not found by official archaeologists. That's one problem. But the biggest problem is that you cannot age date stones. That's the biggest problem. But, for example, in France, in a small village called Glosel, in 1923, the farmer found, while working on his ground, over 300 artifacts, including also carved bones and ceramics. And the bones were dated up to 24,000 years.
That's
so I think that this writing, in my opinion, is older than the Sumerian writing.
And for those listening, the Sumerians, and correct me if I'm wrong, they lived, 4,000 BC, and I'm just being kind of generous here. So there's a big difference between 24,000 and 4,000.
You never know how old really those writings are. But as you mentioned, the Sumerian, just about 2 years ago, and they found out in Tiahuanaco in Bolivia that some of the stone sculptures, they thought these are only scratches, but they found out that partly they are kind like Sumerian writings, and they found also a big bowl with Sumerian writing in the bowl. So now is the question for me, where this writing came from first, because in my opinion, and also the American archaeologist Neil Steedy, and in the 1900s already Poznansky, he was a great researcher in Tiahuanaco in Bolivia, they all said that Tiahuanaco is at least older than 10,000 years. So if there are writings like Sumerian writings now found in Bolivia, the question is, where came this writing from? From Sumeria to Tiahuanaco wouldn't be possible because the writing there dates further back. So that's another big question for me, and only scientists can give one day, hopefully, a good final answer.
What I find fascinating is that they say that civilization, aka writing, agriculture, cities, didn't start until the Sumerians, so 4,500 BC, moving into the Egyptians. And so if you're talking about a city that existed 10,000 years ago, or these artifacts that were dated to 24,000 years ago, we're not talking about the Sumerians or whatever would be a culture around that point in time.
Yes, that's a really big question. And also the Sumerian, isn't it very strange that they suddenly got so many education, culture, writing, and all this? It came up suddenly in Sumeria, as far as I know from history.
I like to say on the show, it was a miracle.
Okay.
That was a joke.
Sitchin did quite a good research, I think, on the Sumerian history.
And he dates them going back to, I can't think of the phrase, but when, the gods descended to Earth, and that was like 400,000 years ago, which is still really far back. But you made a comment, and I don't remember if it was on air or if it was while we were visiting before, about something being like 1 million years old.
Oh, yes. That's very interesting. In Colombia, in Villa de Leyva, this is not too far away from Bogota. It's a very traditional place. In Villa de Leyva, there are millions and millions of fossils, and already in the 17th century, the Spanish priests built up a monastery there, and they used fossils for the ground floor of the monastery. And inside this ground floor, professor for archaeological plants found petrified fruits and vegetables, petrified. That means older than at least 100,000 years. So 1 million years, sorry. So who could have been able to plant and cultivate fruits and vegetables? And they found later on in the fields many other fruits and also vegetables like cocoa bean, banana, avocado, maize, even maize, completely petrified. So 1 million years, that wouldn't be possible, of course, concerning the science, because dinosaurs disappeared around 64 million years. So who could have lived before, long time before the dinosaurs? But then one day, several years ago, Professor Gutierrez, a famous architect and industrial designer, found a stone plate with a human hand and a human foot petrified in this stone. The geological age dating of this stone plate was around 140 million years. So, of course, all those pieces cannot be accepted by official science, because that would open a missing link of at least 998 million years. What was in between? There wouldn't be any answer, and that's a complicated problem, I think.
And so the handprint that was in it, it had a fully opposable thumb at that point?
The skeleton, human skeleton, skeleton
it wasn't
hand
just a
and
hand.
the skeleton foot, human.
So, wow.
So, of course, I don't think that dinosaurs would have been able to plant and cultivate fruits and vegetables. Don't you think so?
I don't think so. They were meat eaters. No, well, not all of them, but yeah. Anyway, let's kind of turn our attention, because we're going to kind of keep talking about this timeline and dating, because it's just, to me, extremely fascinating, to some of the images that are in the image gallery on the webpage, justenergyradio.com. And our first little adventure is some tour or some items that came out of Ecuador. And the first one I wanted to talk about was that world map, or what's identified as the world map. And can you just kind of describe it to the listeners?
Yes. In 1984, there was a British mining company, gold mining, in a small village or small town, close to a small town called La Mana in Ecuador. And the chief engineer, Mr. Engineer Sotomayor, he found in a tunnel, while digging for gold, he found in a tunnel over 300 artifacts, very strange artifacts. Most of them do not fit any pre-Columbian culture. That's why officially they are not yet accepted as archaeological finds. And one of the most interesting pieces is, you see on the picture, a stone. It's granite, very heavy, very hard, and it weighs over 350 kilograms. That's around, I think, 700 pounds. And you have the white line. This is an original natural quartz line, But the people who did this world map used this quartz line as beginning from the Middle East. There you have an inlay of an eye. So that's on the right top corner, the picture you see the Mediterranean, Italy, Greek, and Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, India, and also Thailand. India on this map is bigger than in our days, and as you remember, after the big tsunami, the Indian archaeologists found some sunken city outside the coast, and also Thailand is different. Then the quartz line passes the Mediterranean, and on the left side, top corner, you see the other picture. The quartz line is passing the Atlantic Ocean, and in the center of this photo you see one continent which does not exist in our days, and then you see on top America, North America, and you see South America, and the line passes Venezuela, Colombia, and it's ending in the Bay of Guayaquil in Ecuador. And there is another inlay going a little bit to the north, and a small round inlay, and this is exactly the place where all these artifacts were found. And another very interesting scenery is again on the right side. The red drawing are the in-carvings, and you can see where today the Japanese islands and Taiwan is. There is one long continent. And Professor Masaaki Kimura, he was lending me the model of the huge underground, under the sea level, big monument building construction, and also two artifacts he was lending me, which he found next to this big stone monument under the sea in Yonaguni, which is the southwest Japanese island. When he came to Vienna and for the opening of the exhibition Unsolved Mysteries in 2001, we were discussing and talking, and he was explaining me that he just wrote a book called The Sunken Continent Mu, and upon his researches, he thinks that from the northeast Japanese island, which is today belonging to Russia, the Sakhalin Islands, far down after Taiwan, there was in the past one long continent, and he called it Mu. But again, there are so many researches, and the most famous, I think, was Churchward. He was explaining that Mu was a very, very big continent in the Pacific island. And as you know, that in Hawaii and on many of the Pacific islands, you have huge stone structures, even on some of them pyramids. That means for me, there was the reality that there was a big continent for me is not just mythology or a legend. I think both continents, the one you see on the stone map, Atlantis, and also in the Pacific region, there was also a very big continent in the past. So the question is now, why they did the drawing of this long island connecting all the Japanese islands and Taiwan, showing it as one long continent, which Professor Kimura is thinking existed once. So that means for me that this world stone map must be at least older than 10,000-12,000 years, meaning pre-flood. But on the other hand, who could have been able to do such understandable and nearly perfect world map on a huge stone? And why is there an inlay in the Middle East showing an eye, and then the line is going to Ecuador, and another inlay exactly at the place where all these artifacts were found, and including it's the place where, for me, from my opinion, and we had already some tests, is the best water in the world because it has gold and silver colloidal in nanomicroscopic foam.
Where the eye is inlaid, can you kind of get a feel of where in the Middle East it's placed, or is it just a little bit too vague to identify?
It could be the area close where today is Israel, but if this map, and it should be older than 10, 12,000 years, at that time there was not Israel on this place. So in the Middle East, around the area of Israel, Syria. Okay.
Have you or anybody found any significance to, I mean, you mentioned the inlay, but the layout of the quartz line? When I saw it, the first thing that came to me was, hey, look, it's kind of where the Bermuda Triangle is. And it just made me wonder if there was, you know, part of the energy grid on the planet being represented with that line.
No, I think the Bermuda Triangle is farther north. It's not exactly passing the Bermuda Triangle, not. But it's passing this continent which does not exist in our days, and that should be Atlantis.
Which I think is fascinating, because aren't there some maps that also show the continent of Atlantis?
There's one German did one drawing with Atlantis on it, but there are other very strange maps like the Piri-Reis map. Most of your listeners, I'm quite sure they know it. But there is a very interesting thing that in the Piri-Reis map, approximately at the place where you have on the stone map Atlantis, there is a round bore and some rays are going away from there. And the Piri-Reis map shows even the Antarctis without ice. And in 1956, scientists found out that the land mass under the ice is exactly like it is shown on the Piri-Reis map. And this map dates back until, I think, 1513. That means before Christopher Columbus arrived in the United States. But you can see on that map parts of South America, and it's a very nearly perfect map. So again, there exist several maps which are showing continents or areas in a time where those places were not yet discovered.
You mentioned at the beginning of this piece of discussion that this stone was found in 1984. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
When they found this and the other pieces, did they bring an archaeological team in to evaluate it and collect it, or, you know, what happened with that part?
No, the problem was that, as I said before, those artifacts are not connected with any known pre-Columbian culture. So that's very hard to be accepted by the South American archaeologists. Okay. But as you can see on this stone map, and this is my theory, I think those pieces were brought from at least this point in Middle East where the eye inlay is to South America, to the place where this famous water is. And in connection with water, there are so many legends and fairy tales that the king was searching the water of life. And this water in La Mana in Ecuador is really something very, very special.
Interesting. Let's kind of move on. So this piece totally fascinates me. and it's the Pyramid of the Eye, or it's called the Pyramid of the Eye. And could you kind of describe that to the listeners?
Yes, this is also another piece which was found together with the world stone map in La Mana. The pyramid has 13 steps and an inlay of an eye, but this eye, the natural color is gray. But if you put this pyramid under black light or ultraviolet light, the eye is shining very strong, as you can see on the right picture. The left one is made without ultraviolet light, and the right one with ultraviolet light. So 13 steps and an eye which is shining under black light or ultraviolet light, and it is exactly as you can see on the $1 note, the pyramid with the eye. But I have to say, for me, as it was found with this stone map, and the stone map must be older than 10, 12,000 years, that means that this pyramid has nothing to do with Illuminatis or with Freemasons or anything. I think the history of this piece goes back far back of our time. And on the bottom of the pyramid, you have inlay the Orion star constellation in small gold pieces, and the same unknown writing as we talked before about it. The same writing, and Professor Schildmann in Germany, 2001, when I sent him the photographs, his translation was "The Son of the Creator comes."
Interesting. One of the things that I find fascinating is that obviously in South America, all of the pyramids are kind of stepped pyramids, but when you look at this piece, it is much more representative of the pyramids that you would find in Egypt.
That's right, exactly, yes.
Like, it just kind of blows me away. I want to talk for a minute about the iridescent quality. So you said that it illuminates under ultraviolet and black light?
Yes. So, of course, any reaction of scientists is that this is nonsense, because in old days we did not have ultraviolet light or black light. But I was talking also in South America with many people, with shamans, and some of them said there might be a possibility, if you take some special medicine, drugs or whatever, that it changes your eye view. But on the other hand, as there is also the story going on about the temple of Dendera in Egypt, that there are wall drawings showing a kind of big glass, and some researchers think that this presents electrolight, and I think it was in the 1980s, an Austrian electric engineer, he did a model, and the model, of course, was much smaller than it was showing on the pictures in the temple of Dendera, and it really worked, and it gave a light which looks like black light or ultraviolet light.
Interesting. One of the things that kind of got my brain going in the Americas, and I'm going to say that in a more general way, many of their myths talk about coming up from the ground or spending time living underground. And it would seem that if you are living in a dark environment, that having things that glow in the dark, so to speak, would be beneficial.
Yeah, that's another very interesting research we are doing right now also. worldwide the huge underground tunnels. Like one of the most famous are the Cuevas de los Tallos in Ecuador. And there is also the mythology saying that the whole South America is connected by tunnels. Then in Bosnia, I was about 2 months before visiting Bosnia, the so-called pyramids. Of course, officially they are not accepted as pyramids, but a friend of mine invented a new system and he could scan using satellite underground, and I asked him to do me a scan over the so-called Sun Pyramid in Bosnia, Visoko, and it came out a completely tunnel system with different rooms inside this mountain. So for me, it looks more the reality that this was in former days pyramid, and Dr. Sam Osmanagic did excavations the last 2 years because they were prohibited by the government to dig on the mountain itself anymore. So they did some ground penetrate radar around 2.5 kilometers away from this mountain or pyramid, and they found a huge underground labyrinth. But the very strange thing is that this labyrinth was completely and perfectly closed. And the dating upon pieces they found there, they are thinking that the labyrinth itself was built around 10,000 years ago, and it was completely closed around 5,000 years ago. And inside, while opening the labyrinth, they found always big, huge stones. They thought these are stones, so they did a material check, and the result was these stones and some of the artifacts found inside there were ceramics. And some engineers and technicians did sound recording and also radiation, if there is inside any radiation, and they found out there is no radiation inside. There is no cell phone, electricity, radiation coming inside the labyrinth, but it produces at least 40 times more negative ions than in a very good room. That means this labyrinth had in the past a very interesting, very important function. We do not know yet what function, but one of it could be for health generation. But the strangest thing was the recording of a sound which we cannot hear normally, but a Finnish sound specialist did some recordings with very special microphones, and afterwards he made the sound hearable for us, and it was a very, very strange sound which remembered me on a kind of engine running. So very strange. Then we are coming to Austria, even in the south of Austria. Engineer Kusch, he found, and he's still researching, a huge underground tunnel system in south of Austria. He discovered until now, I think, around 1.6 kilometers, and it has even 4 floors. So that means nobody knew anything about it. There is no historical writing about it, who made it. But all these underground tunnel systems you can find all over the world. So your question was very interesting before.
Thank you. Question. So how tall are the tunnels? Are they relatively human size? Are they really big? Are they small where us as adults would have to crawl through them?
In Austria, in Bosnia, they are human size. In Ecuador, they are very huge. And also in Crete, there are underground tunnels and also a very, very big labyrinth, an underground stone labyrinth. So that's also very, very big. And a very interesting photo I received from a researcher in Ecuador who was in the Cuevas de los Tallos 2009 and 2010. And he sent me a photo of a very huge human-made room inside the Cuevas de los Tallos with a huge entrance made out of stone also. And there is a wall drawing, a wall painting of a man. And this man is 7.5 meters in size. And I was really surprised because a few years ago I heard about Ecuador, a Father Vaca, who found the broken bones of a 7.6 meter human skeleton. That's about 23, 25 feet, 7.6 meters. So I researched, and finally I found the family of the father, because on my arrival day, just exactly 1 month before he passed away, and that was really very bad luck for me, because I'm quite sure he could have told me many, many things, but finally I could take some of the bones with me, and we did research and checking here, scientific checking in Vienna, and one of the bone is definitely identified as part of a human heel bone, and the other one is a human os occipitale, which is a bone we have under the skull, which makes us able to roll our skull. And the only thing is that those bones are 5 times bigger than normal human bones. So that means if the people around that time were about 1.5 meter, 1.6 meter multiplied 5, you have exactly 7.5, 7.8 meters. And why this wall drawing in the underground, huge hole in the part of the underground tunnel system? The wall painting is exactly 7.5 meters. So for me, it's sure that giants existed. We found skeletons. I got information from Utah, several 2.6 meter giants. From Bolivia, also several skeletons over 2.5, 2.6 meters. At the conference in Bosnia, I met the ambassador from Pakistan, and we were talking about giants also, as he was attending my speech. So after that we were talking, and he explained me that they have a human skeleton in Pakistan which is 5 meters in size. That's about 16 feet. So worldwide, there are stories. You can find the stories about giants at any tribe, at any civilization all over the world, in any country. So that's not only a mythology or a story or just a legend, it's reality. For me, giants existed. Then another very interesting piece we found in a museum in Cuenca, that's a stone axe, which is also around 5 times bigger than a normal stone axe. But of course, in the museum, it is mentioned as a ceremonial axe.
I'm sorry, I have to laugh to that. Have you noticed that everything is for religious and ritual purposes?
Yeah, that's very interesting. In many, many worldwide museums, if there is no possibility to explain something, you find anthropomorph or morphological or ceremonial. So, but the question is always, what kind of ceremonial? The axe is 70 centimeters long, granite, very heavy. So I was asking for what kind of ceremony such a big axe would have been used.
I like you, Klaus. That's a great question. I'm sure they did not have an answer for you.
It's hard. It's hard to answer.
The skeletons that you found, the giant skeletons, has there been any radiocarbon-14 dating done on them, or any DNA testing done?
No, we didn't. No, we did not yet age dating, but the expert on archaeological DNA research in Austria, he did try to find some DNA parts inside the giant bones, but completely nothing, no result. That means the bones must be very, very old.
Exactly. And since we're talking about bones, and on the page there are a couple of images further down, let's kind of shift gears and talk about the elongated skulls that are found. You know, I put them in Bolivia, but they're really found all around the world, correct?
Yeah, they found elongated skulls all over the world. The most interesting until now, there are two places. One is Ica in Peru. There is a small museum, Maria Reiche Museum. This German lady did nearly her life research on the Nazca lines, and Ica is very close to the famous Nazca lines. And in this museum there are so strange skulls, long skulls, and I would not say they are elongated, because for elongation they are too long. And the one shown on your website, this photo, both photos are the same skull, is really from Bolivia. They are longer than a normal human skull, but the most interesting thing is, if you look at the photo, we have 3 bone plates on the skull. And here on these skulls, there are missing the connection, the 3 bone connections. That means this skeleton, and they found in Bolivia several of them. First of all, they are much taller than we are. They are about 2.5, 2.6, 2.7 meters. Our normal human man size is around 1.8 meters. So they are much taller. And the strangest thing is, their jaw is nearly double strong as normal human jaw bone. And on top, that's what I said before, missing the 3 bone plate connections. It's just like an egg, the top of the skull. That means that these humans were definitely not Neanderthal, not Cro-Magnon, and not Homo sapiens sapiens. So what kind of human were these skeletons? That's a very, very interesting question.
And just for the people that are listening, if you think about a baby, there's the soft spot in the center of their head that you always have to watch out for, and that's where those plates join, the 3 plates that he's talking about join. And if you look at the images, there's not that location on their head.
Right. And when I received 2001 several black pieces like masks and other objects from Bolivia for the exhibition from an unknown civilization, I was wondering why the mask, I tried to look through the eyes of the masks, but I couldn't look at the same time through both of them because they were too wide away. So at that time I didn't know about the skeletons with 2.6 meters found in Bolivia. So that means those artifacts must be connected with those human. Because if you are 2.6 meter, your skeleton, your body is much bigger, also your head. So they could look through these masks at the same time, but our skull is too small that we cannot look at the same moment through both eyes of the mask you see just right under the skull.
So what you're saying is that these masks that are being shown actually fit onto those skeletons.
Definitely, yes.
Interesting.
You
got me going even more.
I beg your pardon?
You have my brain going even more.
Oh, there is so many things out there you cannot imagine. And also the other two stone masks on the same page, they are also from the same civilization. And the interesting thing is that the material inside is sometimes brown or light gray, but always the surface of these pieces is it's completely black, and it looks like a lacquer. And one time, one of the pieces was broken, so we could see inside the brown material, and it looks like a lacquer over the stone. So Italian two universities tried to find an explanation why that is so, but they couldn't give any explanation. How did they do this changing of the surface? It's very strange. I mean, there are also some pan flutes precisely done, and when we had them in Vienna 2001, I asked a professional Bolivian pan flute player to join us one evening, and I invited two professors of the Music Academy to find out what kind of sound these pan flutes are producing. And this professional pan flute player, he could play you from a children pan flute the most beautiful melodies, but it took him a long time to get the right sound out of these pan flutes. And few days later, we checked again the flutes, and then we found out why it was so hard, because always one and the other hole was one and the next hole, always two holes were connected perfectly on the bottom. So there is the big question: how could they do a connection around to the next hole in perfectly way? How could they drill it with simple tiles? That's a very big question. Mm-hmm. And the sound, later on, first of all, it doesn't fit any known melody sound, and the vibration was very strong when he got the right sound out of the pan flutes. And we found later out that most of these sounds are completely precise, connecting the brain waves. So for me, either they were used for meditation or for healing.
Well, there are a lot of people that are coming to the thought, I don't want to say belief, that sound waves were used to transport large stones, to do a number of different things, that we don't understand that technology, but that there was a sound or a vibration, and perhaps, I'm just throwing it out there, these flutes were used to create that sound.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
That's what next time when I get those flutes, we have to do several more checks on them. But you find those stories all over the world. that, like in Tibet, like in South America, that they were moving big stones with sound.
And it would be very interesting if those flutes, were the key.
Who knows? You gave me a good hint.
Okay. I'm good that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to go back to the masks for a second.
Yeah?
Pick any of them, but about how much did they weigh? If they're stone, I just can't even imagine someone wearing a stone mask just because of the weight of it.
Well, if you are 2.6 meters, you are quite strong, I think.
Does there show any way that they were actually fastened to a person's head, or do you speculate that the person held them up to their face? Because it makes me think of African ceremonial masks or masks that are used by Native Americans, more contemporarily. But those are usually wood or some kind of organic material and not stone.
Yes. But I have no idea how they used it. You have, on some of the masks on the back side, you have little holes to put something through. Could be possible that they had it with something hanging around their skull, their head.
They're just fascinating. Okay. I'm looking through these pictures again real quick. I want to go. I just love the stuff that was in Ecuador, so we're going to come back to that because there were some more pyramids that were showing that also have the eye.
Yes. The one on the left side where it is written stone pyramid, you have on top of this stone, you have again the pyramid with the eye, and then you have many symbols. We don't know what they mean, but what is on every line is a spiral. And spiral is also one of the symbols, I think one of the oldest symbols we know. And the right stone also shows an eye encarved. But that's not the only ones. They found there at least 10, 12 stones with a pyramid with the eye.
In the cave that this was found, about how far underground were they actually mining?
I would say I was on the spot, I would say around 12, 15 meters. That's about around 50 feet.
And there was actually a tunnel going down to where they found these artifacts.
Yes, it was completely closed. So while digging, something broke down, and then they saw that there is a kind of tunnel. And inside they found those artifacts.
Were they just laying around?
No, some of them, the little ones, were in big ceramic bowls.
So they were stored.
They were stored.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating. We're going to be going to a break here really quick, but I just find it fascinating that this is 1984 and there aren't pictures and videos of them actually finding this site and documenting on some level what was there without just taking stuff out.
No, the problem is if there is no archaeologist on the spot while opening, while excavating, then it's very difficult to get a really acceptance. But even if there would have been an official archaeologist on the spot, as I said before, most or nearly all of these pieces have no connection to any of the known pre-Columbian cultures. So that would be, even for an official archaeologist, a big problem to get the approval that these pieces are original.
Well, I still would be in there with my camera, taking pictures and documenting it. Klaus, there is the music, which means we need to take a quick break. But when we come back, let's talk about the jade inlaid cups and some of these other jade pieces that were found.
Okay.
Sound good? All right. All right, hold on, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.